And like I said, unforgiveness is a monster that grows into a monster that you need to feed. So that was more like me feeding this thing that had grown inside of me. It was not anything else. Oh, I've tried to reason with myself as to why I should not be forgiving a certain person or why I should not forgive certain things. But after experiencing the effects of unforgiveness and then understanding things from God's perspective and being in a real relationship with God, I will always choose forgiveness. That's my I'm going to say it's my new reality. Will it be immediate? Probably not. Will it be easy? Probably not. But I'm figuring it out and I will eventually get it right. We have to also be for real and understand that people have lived through so much of what we don't know, so much of what we don't see, and that's where the empathy and the sympathy comes in. But what will destroy you more is not being able to forgive and thinking that you are punishing the other person, when in fact, when you look around at your life, you are punishing yourself and you are losing out on some of the best things that life was meant to give to you, or that was meant to happen for you, or that God was trying to give to you. Hi community, welcome back to A Cupful. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I hope we're all doing good. I hope we're all taking good care of ourselves, all of that good stuff. So as a continuation of what I'm calling the love series, because it is the month of love, this week I really wanted to talk about forgiveness and doing it from a place of love. I know forgiveness is such a contentious topic, especially when a person or people have really put you through it. I really get it. I understand, years of abuse at the hands of a parent or parents, mistreatment from someone you considered or maybe consider, a friend, a partner breaking your trust by lying to you or stealing from you or cheating on you. I've experienced hard things like that. Um, it can honestly be such a difficult thing to even think about forgiving that person or forgiving those people. And I'm not going to say it's easier to hold on to anger, but you are more likely to hold on to anger. I know with my own personal experiences, I've really struggled to get to the point that I'm at right now. So I have a lot of sympathy, for people that want to forgive and don't know how, or that are in a place where anger is consuming them so much, but they just feel like if they forgive a person, it's going to almost be like saying they are letting them go and letting them not take any accountability. And like I say, I've struggled to get to this point where I can speak about forgiveness and I can learn to forgive other people. It's taken a lot. So I'm not gonna come on here and act like I'm better, or like, forgiveness is the most simplest thing in the world and that everybody should just find it very easy to forgive, and if you don't, then there's something wrong with you. Absolutely not. It has taken me a very long time to forgive certain people, but I do want to say and highlight in today's episode that it doesn't have to take you that long, that there is a way to not have to hold on to anger and bitterness and hatred for like 5 years of your life, 10 years of your life, 20 years of your life. I also feel very fortunate that I have people around me that want to guide me and that encourage me to not hold on to things. So it's really good to make sure that you are surrounded by people that don't enable or encourage you to continue harboring certain feelings that are clearly going to destroy you or want to destroy you. And I also know that like revenge is always going to be the first thing that will come to your mind, or just being like super vengeful or petty. And yeah, it's like a human reaction. It very much is a human reaction. We are people, we are human beings, we are innately flawed. So wanting those kinds of things and justifying them is something that we're going to do. I've been there before. And again, it hasn't been easy to get here. So yeah, I know how it feels to hold on to both anger and choose not to forgive. And I know how it feels and what comes with truly and lovingly forgiving a person or people. I think back on so many instances, like right now, actually, I think I'm thinking back on so many instances and so many periods in my life where I had to deal with mistreatment. And where I used to just think that this is actually so unforgivable. Things I never in a million years thought I could let go of and never look back at on again. Or if I am looking back on them, like how I'm thinking about them, just never thinking that I'd not feel angry or disappointed or sad. Things I never could have imagined would not make me cry when recalling them. Some were momentary experiences and others lasted years. It hurts so much to be sitting with yourself and realize how messed up a thing you have experienced or are experiencing is. It's heartbreaking. So, yeah, I have a lot of sympathy. Guys, I have so much sympathy because I know I've contended, I've fought, I've tried to reason with myself as to why I should not be forgiving a certain person or why I should not forgive certain things. But after experiencing the effects of unforgiveness and then understanding things from God's perspective and being in a real relationship with God, I will always choose forgiveness. That's my I'm going to say it's my new reality. Will it be immediate? Probably not. Will it be easy? Probably not. But I'm figuring it out and I will eventually get it right. And it won't be immediate. Like when a person has hurt me, immediately afterwards, I'm like, oh, okay, it's fine. Everything is fine. But it also won't take me as long as it used to take me. I'm not going to drag things on for years. Um, yeah, I'm going to be honest and say I didn't like who I was and what I was inviting in my life when I lacked forgiveness. When I was saying that after experiencing the effects of unforgiveness, for me right now, when I look back, it just it wasn't a good place to be in. I had imprisoned myself, thinking that I had imprisoned the other person or the other people that had mistreated me. I was going to places emotionally, mentally, and even physically that were just beyond who I am at the core of my being. So, yeah, when I lacked forgiveness, the things I was speaking into existence were scary. My tongue was able to talk about people in a certain way and just like reinforce certain feelings in a very unhealthy way. And although I was thinking that that was directed at them, I was actually inviting so much negativity into my life and into my space, and it had become my norm. Secondly, the way my heart was set up, like I said, at the core of who I am, I mentioned it in last week's episode about the love you know you deserve. I am a lover girl. And not just in terms of from a romantic perspective. I love to love people. And I absolutely love that about me. I love to share my heart with other people. I'm obviously learning to do it far better with more tact and with more boundaries than I did before. But that's just who I am. And the way my heart was becoming was not a reflection of love, and it was not in a posture of love. Um, I was not being kind anymore when I needed to be kind. I was no longer empathetic. I was no longer sympathetic. I was just harboring this anger, and other people were also on the receiving end of it. Like they were being affected by it. So, yeah, it really wasn't a good place to be in. Another thing was the anger that was constantly just brewing inside of me and how many people were on the receiving end of it. I just mentioned that in the previous point that I made, but it was also just the people that were closest to me. My family were beginning to be on the receiving end of it. Even friends, like people in my life in general were being affected by this anger and this growing anger, just constantly filtering into other parts of my life, and it becomes uncontrollable because it's just grown into this monster that you have to now feed, that you now have to now reinforce. Yeah, and that's what unforgiveness does. It takes root in your life and it literally takes over. You can no longer see the light that love is. It's just anger all the way, and you're irritable and you lack control of your emotions, like your emotions and your feelings are controlling you as well. Just these big and impulsive, explosive reactions. Just not considering people around you. So, yeah, that was another thing. The other thing was the constant heartache. I would be sitting with myself and I would realize that, like, I'm actually so angry and this is actually hurting me. And it's just become uncontrollable at this point. It is affecting the decisions I'm making, how I'm treating other people, what I'm allowing to take root in my heart and then come out of my mouth, the things that are growing in my mind, the thoughts that I'm constantly having. Like, I was just going to such scary places in my head that I would much rather not disclose, but I was going to such scary places with the kinds of thoughts I was having about other people and the people that had hurt me. And yeah, just, yeah. And all the while, I'm thinking, if I'm not speaking to this person, then that is hurtful enough for them. If I'm choosing to, when I do have interactions with them, be petty or cold or rude, then I'm doing something. But again, it was just hurtful because I was realizing that this is not who I actually, this is not who I am. This is not what I believe in. This is not what I want. So, yeah, it was causing me a lot of heartache. The other thing was the bitterness and needing to hold it up in place through reinforcing how I could never ever forgive that person for what they did to me. Like, I used to go on and on and on about how unforgivable certain things are and how I could never ever bring myself to a place where I would be able to forgive a person, and that if this happened to them, then they deserved it, and if this happened to them, I wouldn't be surprised because if they did this and this and that to me. And yeah, that's really not a good way to be. And again, I thank God for the light that He's shed in my life, and He has given me so much knowledge and wisdom and understanding and an opportunity to see things from a different perspective and see things with a different eye. I no longer feel the need to allow bitterness to fester in my heart and to fester in my life. I also understand that if I did not have God's forgiveness for the millions of things that I have done that was sinful and wrong, then I wouldn't be here. And so then for me, again, as someone with the understanding that I have now, I'm always going to ask myself first, like, what right do I have to keep dragging this out? This person no longer has the power to do anything to me. So why do I keep holding on and dragging it out? I was holding on to things that people had done to me that had long left my life. Like, we were no longer in contact. And every time I had the opportunity, I would talk bad about them. But they weren't in my life anymore. And like I said, unforgiveness is a monster that grows into a monster that you need to feed. So that was more like me feeding this thing that had grown inside of me. It was not anything else. It was not necessarily because I'm still feeling the pain, because what they did to me ended on that day that they did it to me, or in that moment that they did it to me. So it wasn't about that. It was just about feeding this thing that had grown and had taken roots inside of me. So, yeah, I realize now, I know better today, that if I have been forgiven, I can bring myself to forgive another person, and I can just have a lot more empathy. And that's what I absolutely love about Jesus. He had so much empathy, and he continues to have so much empathy on people that were doing the worst things to him in the Bible, that betrayed him. He was on a cross and he was being stoned and he was having things thrown at him, and he had nails go through his hands and his legs or his feet, and he had a crown full of thorns that was going through his literal head. And he was asking God to forgive those people for what they were doing, because they did not know what they were doing, and he knew that. And it was just so empathetic. So I know we don't all have the same understanding, and you don't have to agree with me, but this is my understanding, and this is where I stand with this now. There are many, many things that have been so difficult to deal with that another person has done to me, that a person who I trusted deeply did to me. And I spoke a little bit about it in last week's episode, where I said I had some personal issues, and I had a realization at one point or another in my earlier 20s that my pain and my problems were rooted in something very specific, and that was just like that issue that I had with my dad. And I have learned to forgive him and to have empathy and to be sympathetic towards him and his situation. And more than anything, I have learned to see him not just as my father, but as a human being who had many, many experiences before I was born. He was once a little boy who went through his own experiences. He was once a pre-teenager, he was once a teenager, he was once a young adult, and throughout his life, way before he could even think of having me or me coming into his life as his daughter, he had many, many experiences. And so that's something that's really helped me as well when it comes to learning to forgive others and letting things go, is that I understand that a lot of the times, 99.9% of the time, people are behaving in the ways that they do, and they do certain things because they have had a multitude of experiences that have brought them to that point, because they have dealt with so many things. And as much as I'd love it to be super straightforward, yeah, I'm here, you're here, and you should be acting right, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Yeah, fair. But we have to also be for real and understand that people have lived through so much of what we don't know, so much of what we don't see. And that's where the empathy and the sympathy comes in. And I'm not saying that you should just let people get away with whatever and keep quiet and understand that they've had rough experiences, or they come from somewhere way before they met you. I'm not saying that. Of course, we must hold each other accountable. Of course, we must call people out when they are in the wrong. But I am also saying that be empathetic, be sympathetic. And yeah, that's just my own view and perspective of it. It's my understanding of things now, and it's something that has helped me learn to forgive others and move on. And it's also freed me, because I don't take things as personally as I used to. I used to take everything personally. But yeah, it's often not that deep. And if it is, then I must deal with it in a healthy way. And if I need to speak to that person, then I do. Yeah, another thing was, I was also a lot of the times doing certain things from a place of proving to that person or those people that they didn't succeed in breaking me, or they didn't succeed at taking what they thought they took away from me. But the thing was, I was never doing it for me, even though I had found a way to convince myself I was, I was doing it for them. And so life was starting to become about them. So yeah, I used to really want to prove to a person that thought they hurt me or broke me, or that did something specific to me, that they didn't actually do anything to me. And you see, that's another sign of unforgiveness, when you are just focused not on doing things for yourself, on moving forward, on living for yourself, but you're so focused on showing the person or the people that have hurt you that you're good, that there is nothing that they can do to bring you down. And the only person you need to be showing that to is yourself. You really, really, really need to show yourself that you're okay. Like, you are working through this in the best of ways possible, and you are creating room for yourself to be able to thrive and move forward with your life. So yeah, again, I understand we have very different experiences as people, and forgiveness can be a very tricky topic. But one thing I will always do, and it's something I'm standing on, especially since I have become more serious about my relationship with God and just investing in it and understanding better what the Lord asks of me, I will always believe in forgiveness. Yes, things happen and they can be hard and they can be absolutely heartbreaking and they can destroy you. But what will destroy you more is not being able to forgive and thinking that you are punishing the other person, when in fact, when you look around at your life, you are punishing yourself and you are losing out on some of the best things that life was meant to give to you, or that was meant to happen for you, or that God was trying to give to you, you know? So why should we forgive lovingly? It's freeing. It's freeing. Especially for you, most importantly for you. You get to live your life detached from that person or those people. So you have the option and opportunity to create boundaries between you and those people, to create that space between you and those people. You get to just live life on your terms and for yourself, and you are not constantly working overtime all the time to prove to that person or those people that they didn't actually do anything to you. What happens when you forgive? You open your heart and you make space for everything that belongs there to exist freely. Oh my goodness. Forgiving for me, letting go for me, I'm going to liken it to, you know, when a flower is blooming, when a rose opens up, when a flower opens up, when any flower opens up, that's what it has felt like for me. It just feels like there is so much more to life. And there is. There is so much more to life than holding on to the things that you cannot change. Again, they've happened. And of course they hurt you, and of course they were terrible, but you can't go back and make them look different. They are what they are. What you can do is find a way to move forward and thrive in the best of ways that you possibly can. You get to keep the good things in your life. I love this one so much, and I see this every single day. You end up in such a good place with yourself that you absolutely cannot miss your blessings. You're not focusing on nurturing and watering and pouring into this monster that you have created inside, where you are just bitter and angry and fighting with everything and fighting with everyone and just constantly taking out your anger and frustration on other people, even the people that were meant to be in your life, that were meant to add to your growth, you know, the opportunities that were meant to add to your growth. You get to keep those things and your life gets to change. Also, your past stays in the past and you are able to enjoy your present and you are able to look forward to your future. You know, the thing about things that have happened is, again, there's nothing you can do about them. I want you to ask yourself, if you battle with unforgiveness and you are genuinely wanting to change that, ask yourself what difference it's making to be angry. What has being angry done for you? What has being bitter done for you? What has constantly being vengeful done for you? Yeah, think about it. Another thing is that you are able to move on with your life. I think I mentioned this, but yeah, moving on with your life means, for example, with a partner that cheated on you, or someone that kind of just like left you unexpectedly and you thought you guys were good, or a friendship that just didn't work out, or where your friend betrayed you. And yeah, you are able to move on with your life, and that person doesn't have any access to you anymore. You don't give them the room to come back into your life. It's done. They've walked out. That's something that they chose, and yeah, you block them, you delete pictures and contact details, and you focus on moving on, but in a healthy way. And when you block them, it's not because of, oh my gosh, I hate this person, I could never forgive them. It's because you just will not be allowing someone to come and go in your life as they wish. They've lost the access. They are the one that made that choice. You've released them, you've let them go, and you are inviting the abundance that is meant for you by doing that as well. Like, not holding on and not wishing and hoping for closure. That also is something that I'm hoping will stay in 2023. I don't believe in closure. Some things, many of them, just need to be left alone, left unsaid. If they were not said at the time that you were in each other's presence, then just leave it alone. Forgiveness is not minimizing or erasing your experience. It's giving yourself the room to live again and experience life beyond what has happened to you. It is freeing yourself from the chains of that thing. It also does not mean getting involved with the other person. And I think it's a big misconception. Forgiving someone doesn't mean that you need to stay in contact with them. I know it can be tricky with family, but yeah, there are many people that have shared their stories I've seen on social media where they've had to go no contact with family because the things that they did, they were not remorseful about them. And that's another thing. There's a difference between someone who is remorseful or repentant and someone who just has amnesia and is like, I didn't do that, that didn't happen like that, and they're trying to gaslight you and manipulate you. You see, in that situation, when someone is not remorseful, you forgive them and then you walk away and you lock that door and you throw the key away and you never look back again. And you move on with your life. Because one thing about someone who has amnesia or they are manipulative and they like to gaslight is they will repeat their patterns again. So it's important in situations like that to forgive but not to forget. And then there are other situations where someone is very remorseful and they're like working on themselves and they're showing you that they want to be in your life and they want to do better by you. I feel like that is the exception to the rule, where you can give someone space in your life and obviously monitoring them and having boundaries. But if you choose to have someone back in your life and you choose to give them space in your life again, genuinely forgive them and don't hold it over their head, because if you're holding it over their head, then you haven't actually forgiven them. It's almost as if you're wanting to take revenge. So yeah, you choose, but when you choose, just act accordingly. Yeah. Sometimes forgiveness will mean walking away and closing a chapter without tying yourself down to that thing or that person, by constantly going back to prove that you're doing good, or by constantly planning your next move of revenge. That is exhausting. Sometimes it is going to look like forgiving a person and choosing to forget what they have done and moving on with them and starting afresh with them. And if that's what you choose, then that is your choice. But again, don't be the person that holds things over people's heads when you say you have forgiven them. So yeah, just remember that Judas did a horrible thing to Jesus. And yeah, he basically sold him for like 12 pieces of silver, something like that. And you know what's cool about Jesus? And with the full knowledge of what was happening, he was still sitting at a table with him, making sure that he's fed, making sure that he's eating. And I really don't know about you, but I'm trying to be a better human being in that way, in that I don't want to be a hypocrite, because I've done some really wild things and I've made some really bad choices. And God has forgiven me and He has had mercy on me. And so I don't want to be the person who's like asking for forgiveness but unable to give it. So, yeah. And obviously, again, use your own discretion, decide how you're going to do it, but don't give anger more room in your life, bitterness more room in your life, unforgiveness more room in your life. Don't give it any room at all. And yeah, just make space for things that are actually meant to be there, that you know are meant to be in your life, that you know you are meant to take care of and pour into and nurture. And I highly and strongly believe and think that unforgiveness in general is not something that anyone should be making space for in their lives. Yeah. Um, Again, it can get very tricky with a topic like this, and we are each on our own journey to understanding certain things. But yeah, this has just been my own understanding and my own experience with unforgiveness and anger and bitterness. And looking at where I was with it, where I was when I was holding on to just like bitterness and had created and was feeding this monster inside of me, and looking at where I am now, where the only desire that I have in my heart is to just like be free and to not chain myself down to things like anger and bitterness. Like there's such a huge difference between those two people and between what my heart looked like then and now. So yeah, I'm just here to encourage everyone to consider the significant difference that can happen in your life when you welcome forgiveness, like true, genuine forgiveness. I'm still trying to figure out certain parts of it, but I'm glad that I am no longer in a place where I would much rather be angry and hateful and bitter. So yeah, this is where we are ending this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope it was a good one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it is going to be helpful. And I hope you just carry yourself with love and treat other people with love and release things with love and walk away and let go when it is necessary for you to do so. If you are wanting to put anyone onto the podcast, please let them know that A Cupful has a TikTok page. It is at A Cupful Pod. If they're trying to just test the waters, I post snippets on there. Otherwise, if they're just trying to go right in and just get immersed in the whole experience, they can find the podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Castbox, everywhere really. Have a beautiful remainder of this week. Rest when you need to, work when you need to. Be kind to yourself, love on yourself, love on other people. Give yourself an opportunity to forgive and to make space in your life for the things, the good, the wholesome, the lovely things that belong there. And most importantly, don't forget to keep doing the things that fill your cup.